Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another video. Today we're doing 10 tips for new players to Dragon Ball Super. It's been a little while since we had a video just dedicated to new players, so we're doing that today. But even if you guys have been playing for a few months, maybe you haven't made it to a locals yet, or maybe you've only been playing at home or online, this video can still have some helpful info for you guys. For those of you guys watching that already know how to play Dragon Ball Super pretty well, make sure to share this video with new players. Let's get our community kind of up and moving and spreading around, right guys? So that being said, we'll get into this. If you are new here, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you never miss a video. And if you guys want to help support the channel, there are many ways to do so as always. But today guys, if you want to buy any of the cards you've seen in today's video, or any trading cards for that matter, use my link in the description to TCG Player. It really does help me out a lot, and I really do appreciate it. Anyways, let's jump into the first tip, which is talking about life. Life in Dragon Ball Super is very precious, and you might not totally get this if you come from a game like Pokemon, where the life resource kind of works in reverse, or you come from a game like Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh, where life is tied to just a abstract number, right? In Dragon Ball Super, life gets added to your hand when you take damage. So there's a pretty significant rule of thumb that it's going to apply to like 99% of situations, which is the first 4 damage you take are pretty advantageous to you, because they do a couple things there. One, every life that gets added to your hand increases your hand size, increases your card economy, gives you more resources. So it's very good to take those first 4 life. 2, most leaders in the game have an awakening condition tied to their life total, and most of the time it's going to be being at 4 or less life. So the more life you take early, the faster you get to your awakening condition. And 3, there are cards called super combos in the game that are oftentimes tied to your life total, again most of the time being 4 or less life. So by getting down to that 4 life, your super combos go online. Now there's definitely a stark contrast to that when it comes to being at 4 or less life in your life total, because now once you start taking damage at 4 life or below, you get much closer to actually losing the game at 0 life, right? So once you do get to that 4 life total, that's where you really want to start thinking about defending yourself, whether you're negating attacks, whether you're blocking, whether you're counterplaying or comboing out of attacks. That's very important to consider. Like the first 4 life can be very advantageous to take, but once you get to that 4 life total or less, you do want to be very specific with how you defend yourself and what life you take at those lower life totals. So life is precious for all those reasons. Definitely don't forget it. Then we have another tip saying play meta decks. So here's the thing guys, if I post a list here on the channel that says first place or second place, or I do a video titled Top Cut Breakdown Meta Analysis, pay close attention to those. Oftentimes I do have deck lists and deck profiles from those events either posted in those Top Cut Breakdown videos, or again like just first, second place deck profiles. Play those decks. So often I see new players coming into the game and they've just built, you know, a concoction of something that they liked, or something they thought was cool, but they don't totally understand how the game works yet. And I'm really not trying to put down anyone who wants to play the game in their way, but if you're a new player and you truly want to understand the fundamentals of the game, playing a meta deck can really help you with that. Because if you're playing you know, maybe a suboptimal list, a couple things are going to happen. One, you're probably going to lose a lot, especially if you go to a local or a regional, because these players that are playing stronger decks and understand how the game works are going to have a much easier time winning against you who doesn't quite understand how the game works yet, and at the same time you're playing a weaker deck. So you're kind of just giving yourself a disadvantage. So you're going to lose a lot. That's going to cause a lot of frustration, and I really want you guys to learn the game and be happy with your skill in the game. You're going to notice a lot of players in this game do very well with rogue decks, but those are players who have their fundamentals down pat. If you can do that, I think you can play any rogue deck you want in this game and see varying levels of success. But again, I'm just for players that need to really iron out those fundamentals. I think playing meta decks will pay you dividends. Now here's one thing I want to talk about that I know you guys are going to encounter from time to time, and that is this term called net decking. There's a set of players out there, and these are typically less competitive players, that give a very negative connotation to net decking. And what net decking is if I post a first place list and you copy it, then you go to a tournament and do well with it, some players may call you a net decker because you copied that deck and did well with it. They tend to use that term to say you have no skill or you don't know how to deck build, and there's literally no reason for it. Let me tell you guys, the competitive players in any card game, net decking is not a term in their vocabulary, because we understand that metas develop for a reason, right? There are always going to be better cards, and there are always going to be decks that are better than other decks. That's just how games work. Same thing in video games. There are always going to be characters that are better than others in fighting games. There's always going to be builds that are better than others in MOBAs. That's just how it works, right? So again, I think playing meta decks at the beginning of your career in Dragon Ball Super is going to pay dividends, because you'll be playing a stronger strategy while you're ironing out your fundamentals. Once your fundamentals are ironed out, go play whatever rogue deck you want, go experiment with deck building, but first get those fundamentals ironed out. And this is not the same as me saying to you guys, go out and pay hundreds of dollars for the best deck. Do not go and do that. You can play these meta decks for absolutely free by 1, printing out proxies and finding playtest partners that are okay with that, or 2, play online. Untap.in is an incredible resource for playing online, and I do actually have a tutorial here on the channel for how to set up an Untap in account, how to use the interface, all that good stuff. So you don't have to spend a single dime to do this tip. And the next tip is also for your budget, and that's going to be buying a copy of Heroine's Lineage. So if you guys are new to the game, you may or may not know the concept of a secret rare. Basically, these are cards that have the ultimate tag on them. Ultimate means you can only play 1 card with ultimate in your deck, period. And the reason that that's a thing is because SCRs and ultimates are incredibly powerful cards. Now, every color pretty much has a ultimate or secret rare they are using in the meta for the most part, because they're very strong cards. So if you look at a deck list, you might see a $250, $300 card that might just be the secret rare alone. They are crazy expensive because they're very hard to pull in packs and cases. But Heroine's Lineage is the cheapest secret rare in the game. That's honestly still a solid card. During battle, you can take one of your opponent's battle cards, which can even nullify like a game-ending shot, for example. And I'll tell you what, guys, most players are not going to expect you to have this card in your deck. So the surprise factor alone makes it really good. But the budget is something that I really want you guys to consider, because you can buy this secret rare and plug and play it in any deck you guys want. If you guys are new to the game, you don't quite know what color, what playstyle you want to ingrain yourself in. So buy Heroine's Lineage, you can play it in any deck that you're trying out. And once you guys figure out the color you like or the strategy you like, you can invest in the secret rare in that strategy or color if you decide to do so. But Heroine's Lineage, probably one of the best cards you could have in your collection because of that plug and play value. Next up, I have a screenshot here of DBS Deck Planet. This is by far the best online resource for Dragon Ball Super when it comes to deck building, looking at the card database, and even looking at other people's builds to get ideas. You can do all that on DBS Deck Planet. The link is up here in the URL bar. It's also down in the description of the video. Go check them out. Go make an account. Go experiment with some deck building. And again, if I post a list here, like a first place list or a second place list, and I don't have a link to that list, you guys can always build a deck on there. And there's also a 1-button import to untap.in. So that website I was talking about earlier, where you can play the Dragon Ball Super card game for free online. You can build a deck here, click 1 button, it's on your Untap account, now you're ready to play. It's really seamless in the way these two websites communicate with each other. Next up, for the next several tips, I want to talk about TCG terminology that you guys might not be aware of. So you guys may hear terms that, you know, players at your locals or regionals will say, and they're not going to be totally intuitive to you unless you've been playing card games for a long time. So the first term is pop. So I have a meta example here. Like, this is a card you'll see in the meta, you know, throughout various points. And the first one is Frieza Charismatic Villain. So the relevant part about popping is when this card's played, choose one of your opponent's battle cards, when energy costs a center or less, and KO it. When this refers to KOing a battle card or placing in the drop area, people are typically going to call that popping or killing or destroying, but generally they call it pop, and that's going to be referring to KOing a battle card. Then we have bounce. So bounce is another form of removal that usually refers to sending a card back to the opponent's hand. So we have Godsling Technique Trunks. The important part here is the counterplay. You may discard this card from your hand. If you do, the battle card being played is returned to the owner's hand instead. So yeah, going from the board to the hand, or it's going back to the hand from an area, is typically going to be bouncing. Then we have spinning. So spinning is another form of removal that typically refers to sending a card back to the deck. So we have SS Vegeta the Interceptor here. When this card's played, choose up to 2 of your opponent's battle cards and place them at the bottom of the owner's deck in any order. So I might play SS Vegeta the Interceptor and say to my opponent, okay, spin those 2 battle cards back to the bottom of your deck. So that's what you get when you refer to spinning battle cards or spinning cards in general. Then we have the terminology for floodgate. This one is pretty non-intuitive, so I think it's a good thing that I'm explaining it here. So what a floodgate is any card that you play that puts a hard limit on what your opponent can do in a given turn. So for the example here, we have Dormant Potential Unleashed. We have counterattack. If your leader is mono green, choose any number of your opponent's battle cards that add up to a total energy cost of 2 or less and KO them. Additionally, you may choose one green card in your hand and discard it. If you do, your opponent can only attack once more this turn. So that hard limit there, where my opponent can only attack one more time for the turn, that's what we refer to as floodgating our opponent. Most colors and most decks in this game are able to play floodgate types of cards that put different limits on what the opponent is able to do. And when you're getting more ingrained in Dragon Ball Super, learning about the different floodgates that the different colors have at their disposal and how to play around them or counter them is a very, very important skill in this game. It's going to be very helpful to you, and knowing this terminology floodgate is half the battle. Then we have the terminology tap and restand. So in Dragon Ball Super, when a card is facing straight up, that's called active mode. When a card is sideways, that's called rest mode. What a lot of players use, and this is probably from the, more Magic the Gathering type stuff, when you tap a card, that's when you switch it to rest mode. When you restand a card, that's when you switch it back to active mode. So for the example here, we have Realm of the Gods Black Kamehameha. If it's your opponent's turn, draw one card, then choose up 2 of your opponent's battle cards and switch them to rest mode. So if I use Black Kamehameha during my opponent's turn, I might say to them, okay, tap those 2 battle cards. That basically means switch them to rest mode. Then if I go back to my turn, or my opponent go back to their turn, and those battle cards are still on the board, they would switch them back to active mode at their charge phase, and that would be considered restanding them. Some battle cards have abilities that allow themselves to restand or switch themselves back to active mode. And then for the final piece of terminology I want to go over with you guys today, that is ramp. So ramping refers to accelerating your energy. If you guys know the rules of Dragon Ball Super, you guys are allowed to charge 1 energy per turn. Ramping kind of allows you to quote unquote cheat that. So we have the SS4 Vegeta here as an example. When you deal damage to your opponent by attacking with this card, look at the top card of your deck. If it's a mono blue card, you may place it in your energy in rest mode, otherwise place it on top of your deck. So this is an effect that accelerates your energy, gives you more energy than you would typically be allowed to have otherwise, and that is what we call ramping. But anyways, guys, that's all the tips I have for you in today's video. Again, if you found something helpful, let me know down in the comments, and if you did find something helpful and you want to help support me, I am publishing my own comic book at this very moment. I've been talking about it a lot in various videos. If you guys want to learn more about that, the story, the characters, all that kind of stuff, go down in the description to my link to Indiegogo. You guys can see it all there. I really do appreciate each and every one of you guys. Again, share this with a new player. Let's get the community popping. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video.